girl says it's gonna storm. Power lines likely to come down. Take a nap with me. Let the world go round. I wish I knew who I am, but these words belong to a different song. When the downpour comes, I'll keep my raincoat on. I don't wanna drown.
Hi, and welcome back to Everyone Wants to Be Me, Identity Theft Blows. This is season 1, which I have lovingly called Hookers, Cookers, Police, and Thieves. This is episode 2, which, as we left off last week, I gave you all a little bit of homework. And that was to make sure that, 1, you check your renter's or homeowner's insurance and make sure that your identity theft is covered through that policy. 2, you want to run your email through haveibeenpwned.com. And then number 3, and this is, I think, probably the most important, there were certainly red flags that I ignored, and that's, my own personality of being a loyal friend. I think most people would describe me that way. And I certainly didn't expect that, family members and close friends were going to be the people responsible for my identity theft. So, but number 3, very important, start paying attention to who in your life wants you to feel less protected. So with that, let's move on over to episode 2. You're my new best friend, but not really. And also, before we dive in, I just want to give a quick shout out to Lee Sellers, who is the composer, singer, songwriter, and plays all the instruments on the intro music for Everyone Wants to Be Me, Identity Theft Blows. The song is called I Don't Want to Drown. So with that, I want to ask a question. Have you ever been invited somewhere fabulous? I mean, really fabulous. The kind of event where the appetizers have garnishes and everyone's wearing clearly real jewelry, only to realize, or that you were invited to some place that was, a rock and roll venue where the person who had invited you assured you that they knew the rock stars in that particular band. Well, only to realize, once you arrive at that venue or that party or that gala or that fabulous event, that about 20 minutes in, that person who brought you has essentially completely vanished. I'm talking the greatest disappearing act since White Flight. Poof, gone. And you're standing there, holding a mini quiche or smiling at strangers and trying to pretend you're not the human equivalent of a coat check. Yeah, well, that was my life for the longer than I'd like to admit. I had a friend, and I am using that word very loosely. The way you'd use, fresh to describe maybe gas station sushi. Anyway, this so-called friend had essentially mastered the art of the bring and ditch. Take grace everywhere. Show up with grace. And then the second we arrived, vanish. leave me standing there looking like the world's most overdressed, lost puppy. And here's the thing. It wasn't just rude. It was strategic. Because every time she did this, I looked a little more desperate, a little more clingy, a little more like a Class A Klingon and groupie. And that reputation, well, that was useful to someone who was setting me up. So, we're going to talk today about weaponized friendship. In the last episode, I told you about the night they broke down Martin's door, about losing my insurance, about the first bricks being laid in the foundation of my identity theft. And if you haven't listened to that one, please go back. I'll wait. Not really. This is a podcast. I have no idea when you're listening, but you get the point. Today, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the social engineering side of identity theft, because here's what most people don't realize. Stealing someone's identity isn't just about hacking databases and forging signatures. It's about controlling the narrative, making the victim look unreliable, unstable, or just plain annoying so that when things start going wrong, nobody believes them. And in my case, they took my narrative, my real narrative, and flipped that to try and make me look like the criminal responsible for all the mishigas that they had done to me. So the best way to do all of this is to create a friendship. Fake, performative, carefully orchestrated, air quotes, friendship. I want to be clear about something. I'm not telling this story to trash anyone. I'm telling it because the pattern I experienced is a documented tactic. Social engineers and identity thieves cultivate relationships specifically to gather information, control perceptions, and isolate their targets. So if someone in your life is making you feel crazy while smiling to your face, this particular episode is just for you. So let's talk about the tried and true, apparently, tactic of the bring and ditch. So I'm going to tell you about my quote-unquote best friend. I'm putting that in air quotes, so aggressive. Hopefully you can hear them through your earbuds. This person, let's not call her anything. She doesn't deserve a pseudonym. She gets a pronoun, and that's being generous. She came into my life with the intensity of someone who had been looking for me specifically. You know the type, instant best friends. Oh my God, we have so much in common. We should do everything together. You're my person. And look, I'm, just like anybody else, I'm not immune to flattery. Who is? When someone shows up acting like you're the most interesting human they've ever met, it feels good. It feels validating, especially in a city like New York where most people treat eye contact like it's a federal offense. So we started doing everything together. Events, dinners, parties, ballet, the whole Manhattan social circuit. And at first, it was great. It was my, rock and roll buddy, basically. I had a partner in crime, if you'll forgive the expression. Someone to navigate cocktail hours with, someone who'd text me afterward with all the gossip. But then the pattern started. We'd arrive somewhere together. She'd introduce me around, loudly, enthusiastically. This is Grace. Grace is amazing. Grace is my best friend. And then she'd drift, and drift, and drift, and drift, until I'd look up from my conversation and realize she was on the other side of the room, or gone altogether, deep in conversation with someone important. and I was talking to a ficus tree. So the first few times, I, didn't think anything of it. People mingle, it's a party, or it's a, music venue, people, you try and catch up with folks. You don't need to be attached at the hip. And by the way, I was never that person about being attached at the hip, but it kept happening every single time. And the pattern was always the same. She'd bring me, she'd showcase me, and then she'd abandon me. And here's the really sinister part. The way she'd talk about it afterward. Oh, Grace, you were so great tonight. Everyone loved you. Which sounds nice, right? But what she was actually doing, and this took me way, way too long to figure out, was positioning herself as my handler. She was the one who, quote unquote, brought Grace. She was the one who, quote unquote, introduced Grace. She was the connector, and I was the accessory, literally and figuratively. Which, again, sounds nice, right? But what she was actually doing, and the times I tried to circulate on my own, oh, jeez, and pizza. That's when the narrative shifted. Suddenly I was, quote unquote, following people around. I was, quote unquote, inserting myself. I was, and this is my personal favorite, a groupie. A groupie. I'm a grown woman with a career and opinions and a pretty encyclopedic knowledge of obscure, and I mean obscure, baking techniques. And I'm being painted as a groupie because I talked to someone at a party without my handler's permission. Now, here's where this connects to identity theft. Because I know some of you are thinking, Grace, this just sounds like a bad friend. And, you're not wrong. She was an incredibly bad friend. But she was also something worse. She was part of the setup. Think about it. If you want to steal someone's identity, if you want to eventually take their apartment, which, P.S., while we're here, she did, you want to mess with their taxes, you want to compromise their phone, and you want to isolate them from support, you need people to not believe the victim when they start talking. You need a pre-existing narrative that says, oh, Grace, she's a little much. She's clingy. She exaggerates. She's dramatic. The narrative was being built every time I was brought somewhere and ditched. Every time I showed up alone at a gathering because my quote-unquote best friend had ghosted me mid-event. Every time someone saw me looking lost and thought, poor Grace, always trailing after people. It was reputation laundering in reverse. She was laundering my reputation into something dirty. And I let it happen because I trusted her. Because when someone calls you their best friend, you believe them. Even when the evidence suggests otherwise. Even when your gut is screaming, this person does not have your best interests at heart. You ignore the gut because the alternative, which is admitting that someone you care about is using you, it's just too painful. So I want to tell you about one night in particular. We were at an event, a good one. Industry people, the kind of thing where you might actually make a useful connection. She brought me. Of course, she brought me. And within 15 minutes, she'd crossed the room, parked herself next to someone she wanted to impress, and left me having a conversation with a waiter about whether the bruschetta was gluten-free. Which it wasn't, but he was very nice about it. I tried to join her. She physically turned away from me, not in an I didn't see you way, in an I am choosing not to acknowledge you right now in way, in front of people. And you know what I did? I smiled. I pretended everything was fine. I got myself a drink and talked to other people and acted like this was normal and acceptable behavior because that's what we do as friends, isn't it? We absorb the humiliation and we tell ourselves we're overreacting. I wasn't overreacting. I was being managed. The Klingon and the groupie label, and I know exactly where those words came from because they were repeated back to me by people who shouldn't have known them. That label was deliberately constructed. If Grace is clingy, then Grace is clearly unstable. If Grace is a groupie, then Grace is clearly desperate. And if Grace is unstable and desperate, then when Grace says, someone is stealing my identity, people say, sure, Grace, sure they are. That's how social engineering works. You don't hack the computer first, you hack the person's reputation. So, time for the learning portion of today's program. I told you there was always going to be some learning here. And when, just to quote my father, he always told me, when you quit learning, you're dead. And I believe that. And I ain't dead yet. So, here it goes. So, get your notebooks out or your phones. Actually, be careful with your phones. We'll talk about why in a future episode. Get your notebooks out. Social engineering is the art of manipulating people into giving up confidential information or taking actions that compromise their security. And while most people think of it as phishing emails or fake phone calls, and we'll get to those, believe me, it also includes long-term relationship manipulation. Here's what to watch for. Number 1, the love bomb and drop. Someone enters your life with overwhelming intensity, constant attention, flattery, invitations. Then once they've established themselves as central to your social life, they begin to control your access. They decide who you meet, how you're perceived, and when you're included. Sound familiar? Number 2, reputation seeding. This is when someone subtly, and it is subtle, plants ideas about you in other people's minds. Oh, Grace means well, but she can be a lot. Grace has a hard time letting go. These aren't direct attacks. They're seeds, and they grow into perceptions that make it harder for you to be believed later. Number 3, information harvesting. While they're being your quote-unquote best friend, they're also learning everything about you. Your daily routine, your passwords, because you type them in front of friends, don't you? Your pet's name, your mother's maiden name, all those security questions that guard your most sensitive accounts. Your best friend, quote-unquote, knows all the answers. So here's your homework for this week. Number 1, think about the people closest to you. Not to make you paranoid, but to make you aware. Is anyone in your life consistently undermining you while claiming to support you? That's a pattern worth examining. Number 2, change your security questions right now. If the answer is something a friend could guess, your first pet, your high school, your mother's maiden name, change it to something random. Make your first pet's name, Purple Tractor 47, for example. I don't care. Just make it something that can't be socially engineered out of you over, brunch and mimosas. And number 3, start a journal. Write down interactions that feel off, not to obsess over them, but to have a record. Because when gaslighting is involved, your own memory can become unreliable. A written record is your anchor. And put that journal, don't put it on your phone, don't put it on your laptop, put it in an actual journal, an actual bound book. Because here's the fun part. A lot of my journal notes were kept in notes on my phone, and those got taken. So, hopefully, you know what's better than, a fake best friend? Bread. Bread. Specifically friendship bread, the kind you actually share with people who deserve it. So when everything went sideways, I learned that real friendship isn't about who brings you to the party. It's about who shows up at your door with butter and and a plan. Real friends don't ditch you. They sit with you. And sometimes the best way to find real friends is to be one. And when I had to relocate because I lost my home, I started with baked goods. That was the way I was able to cultivate friendships. And, cooking meals for people is something I've done since I was, a teenager. I think for 20 years, my entire family had Christmas dinner because I cooked it. So my food for me has always been about sharing. It's always been about caring. It's always been about community. So today's recipe is a classic. It's something you make a batch of and you share, because real community is built one loaf at a time. It sounds cheesy, but it's true. So I actually made baguettes because that's one of my favorite breads. And believe it or not, they're really easy to make. Just requires a little bit of folding. And I think it's a word to the wise to invest in a rolling pin. They're very good and very handy things to have around. So, as with everything, the recipes will be posted on my Substack, and there'll also be a link to them will also be made available because I've uploaded them to the large language models. A link to those will also be made available on my YouTube channel, on the YouTube channel for Everyone Wants to Be Me, Identity Theft Blows. So just to recap, here's what we learned today. Identity theft has a social engineering component that starts long before anyone even begins to touch your bank account. Toxic friendships can be tools. They're used to isolate you, they're used to damage your reputation, and they're used to harvest your personal information. In my case, that included my Wi-Fi network, my Wi-Fi password, some of my streaming services that I was subscribed to, and a myriad of other things. The bring and ditch little, trick isn't just rude. In my case, it was tactical. It was calculated. It was planned. And it wasn't the first time that this person had done it. So your action items are: 1, you're going to audit your security questions. Change them to things no friend could guess. No one. No friend, no family member could guess. Number 2, pay really close attention to who in your life controls your access to other people. This person in my case was always, saying, I'm tired of having to figure out who to invite and who not to invite because you have such problems with everyone, which wasn't true. The problems were manufactured by her, by planting seeds of information that were false and twisted and designed to make people believe her. And number 3, start journaling. And again, put it in an actual physical notebook. I know we're kicking it old school over here, but putting it in your phone or putting it on your laptop even is a point of access. So go to a bookstore, and go to a local bookstore, for the love of God. They could use it. And I fully believe in shopping locally, and I personally love bookstores. Go to a bookstore and buy yourself a journal and start journaling any interactions that feel off. And I can't overstate this enough. Trust your gut, but verify it with ink. And I say trust your gut because we all have physical reactions to individuals, right? There's some times where we're like, something feels off, and your body reacts to that. Pay attention to those things. So the next episode that we're going to have, is episode 3, is called Push Me, Pull You. And yes, I realize that is a Dr. Dolittle reference. But we're going international, baby. I'm going to tell you about a trip to Paris that went sideways, witnessing an assault, and the very first time that my data was breached. And frankly, the ridiculous trouble I had getting paid for work I actually did. Because identity theft doesn't just steal your money, it steals your ability to earn money. Share this episode with someone who's ever been ditched at a party, which is, in my point of view, frankly, everyone. Leave a comment on the YouTube channel. I'd love your feedback on the episodes. It'd be good to hear if anybody is interested in any additional information that maybe I haven't covered. And find today's bread recipe for a baguette as well on Everyone Wants to Be Me, Identity Theft Blows YouTube channel. I'm Grace Mangum, and everyone wants to be me, but apparently nobody wants to stand next to me at parties. All right, I'll see you next week.
I can see it on TV. Christ almighty, really is a vacuum cleaner salesman. Hey, look what I can do. I'm so dumb, I'm so happy. I'm so dumb, I'm so happy. I just jam my thumb into this ugly fucking table. I get genuinely angry when things go wrong for me. You have no idea what's on cable. Don't you underestimate